The Honourable Mr. Ruinoi.
Ahoy anō la kai te kai hau tū, hei tuatahi mā. Kai te tūwhakaiti nei, I roti te whare. Kai te tūwhakaiti nei, I te mea rākua tai a tina na mai, o ku rangatira, o ku kuia, o ku tuakana teina tuahina. A kua taki hea na I a rātou te nuku o te whenua, kia ki te akonohi rātou, I te tutukitanga, o tēnei kaupapa, e kaua nei a rātou ki roti te whare mere. Ki hei rā te wale I a rātou ki hei te tai atina na mai, rātou ka whetu rangi hea, kore tai ki te whakahua, ko wai, kei mahu ake wetahi. Engari anō, me pēnei rā te kōrero, kore rau e tēnei tai ki te wale I a rātou, me o rātou mahi a ringa, e me āwhina I a tātou e ora nei, me a tātou mokapuna, kāre anō ki whakatina na mai roto I tēnei ao. No reira, nā rungi tēnā kai te kai hau tū, e tikana kia mihi atu ki a rātou, I ngā rangatira kaua kuia kraua, o Ngati Tuwharetoa, o Ngati Raukawa, o te Arawa, kua tai mai te ahiahi nei. No reira, tēnā koutou hara mai, tēnei rā te mōkai, te pōtiki e tū whakaiti, e mihi ake nei ki a koutou tēnā koutou, o tira tēnā tātou katoa. Mr. Speaker, I think I should begin by acknowledging the presence in the gallery of my elders, for Ngati Tuwharetoa, Ponte Arawa e Ngati Raukawa, who have travelled a great distance, as the previous speakers iterated, to witness the final journey of a chapter that they have been involved in writing for many years. And I joined in the previous speaker in welcoming them here tonight, but also in doing that, acknowledge that the ones who weren't able to make it, who are no longer with us, those who made a terrific contribution to the completion of this settlement, and may they always be remembered. And so on that note, Mr. Speaker, I pay tribute to those who are not here. It's interesting, Mr. Speaker, listening to the previous speakers, the Minister of Treaty Negotiations, by right, articulated all the aspects of this settlement legislation. And I congratulate him on his tenacity and his dedication to settling this piece of legislation in the interest not only of the claimants, but also of the communities and of all New Zealanders in general. And I also express my warm congratulations to the Minister for the announcements he made at the Kōkiri Ngātahi Hui this morning, and I look forward to working with him on some of the issues that he raised. So, Minister, kia ora. But also, in congratulating people, I also want to acknowledge former colleagues, the Honourable Dr. Michael Cullen, who played a major part in bringing this piece of legislation to this point, to its final journey, to his predecessor, the Honourable Mark Burton, who played an important role as well, and in particular the Honourable Margaret Wilson, also who initiated discussions around our particular caucus table to ensure that the passage of this settlement in relation to the Waikato River was completed. So it goes without saying, Mr. Speaker, that they did in fact play a tremendous part in the shaping of this particular legislation. They went through the trials and the tribulations, as we do, but were determined that the negotiations, regardless of the highs and lows, must continue, and this settlement must be completed. My esteemed colleague, the former Minister of Māori Affairs, the Honourable Parikura Horamia, could not be here today, but he asked me to express his sincere congratulations to the representatives of the three iwi, his three here today, and wish them the best in the future. He has other commitments, but he asked me to express his warmest greetings and congratulations to the people. Mr. Speaker, the previous speakers, as I said, highlighted a lot of the technical aspects of this legislation, and this being the final passage of this piece of this settlement legislation, I feel no need to cover any of that information that's already been mentioned by the previous speakers. But I will say that, and I agree with the chair of the Māori Affairs Select Committee, the Honourable Tau Henare, that the issue around partnership varies in terms of its definition. Earlier this week, as you would be aware, we had the first reading of the Ngāti Manawa, Ngāti Whare Settlement Bill, And part of that bill covered their interest in the Rangataiki River and other waterways. And it's interesting that the arrangements that they have with Environment Bay Plenty vary considerably to the arrangements that Ngati Tuwharetoa, Te Arawa and Ngati Raukawa have with Environment Waikato. Notwithstanding that, Mr. Speaker, what's important about this whole process is that each iwi be treated differently in terms of their definition of their customary interest in their natural environment. And I mean waterways, land, maunga, awa, takutai mona, whatever shape or form it may come in. And this piece of legislation has proved and demonstrated that actually, as with the Ngati Manawa, Ngati Whare, that it is possible for iwi claimant groups, iwi claimant communities to sit down with Crown representatives and define exactly what their customary interests or their ownership and interests in any particular part of their estates may be translated into. And in this case today, what we're witnessing, as the Minister highlighted, is the definition put forward by these three iwi. I have to say, Mr. Speaker, that even during those negotiations, there have been issues that have been difficult to deal with. And one might say that most of those difficulties have been promulgated by the Crown and the Crown representatives. I was told that on many occasions and many of the meetings that I was in. But that is a test on any minister to work your way through the issue, to find a common ground and to find a resolution that's suitable to all. And during the Select Committee hearings in Rotorua, I was pleased to hear that many of the issues that were raised could not be, they were actually not insurmountable. In fact, if we talked long enough, we would find the common ground and we'd resolve them. I was interested to hear the submission on behalf of Te Arawa. Te Arawa Lakes Trust, we have some general concerns about their relationship with Environment Waikato and also their relationship with the newly formed Waikato River, Te Arawa Waikato River Trust. But the committee concluded that whatever issues there were between the two bodies, they were issues that they themselves needed to resolve. It couldn't be a situation where the Crown could impose a solution on these particular issues, because as far as the Te Arawa Lakes Trust is concerned, all of Te Arawa are represented. In terms of the Waikato River, Te Arawa River Trust is concerned, all of Te Arawa is concerned. There is no place for the Crown in terms of resolving of any relationship issues. And I was very pleased to hear from the chairman of the River Trust, Roger Pigiau, that discussions, wherever necessary, would be implemented and those issues would be overcome and that would be something resolved by them themselves. Mr. Speaker, other issues that came up during our discussions at Select Committee in Rotorua involved other iwi issues as well, but by and large these issues need to be resolved locally. And all too often, the issues between iwi are brought into the public arena, and in some cases it's expected that the Crown would resolve whatever the differences may be. I'm very pleased to say, as was highlighted by the previous Speaker, Honourable Tuwharetoa, that all these issues would be resolved at a local level. But I'm really honoured to be standing in the House today and supporting the settlement of this bill and this last last journey through this House. As the previous speaker said, and as my colleague Honourable Nanaia Mahuta said, from here on it's really up to the people. It's up to the people to give meaning to the legislation. It's up to the people to drive a lot of the relationship commitments that they have entered to, and it's up to the people to determine the way forward. And there is a process for doing that. It's through many in the bill settlement legislation. Will find that they themselves in the schedules had defined what type of relationship they'll have with various organisations. Those definitions haven't been provided by the Crown, although they've been discussed fully with the Crown. They are purely the views of the groups in particular. So on that note, Mr. Speaker, I once again congratulate all those involved, the representatives of Ngati Tuwharetoa, Te Arawa and Ngati Raukawa, their negotiators who did a tremendous job under difficult conditions, their technicians who had to work under equally difficult conditions, their supporters who kept this whole thing together and ensured that their team had the support necessary to make the settlement possible.